Thunderbolts was my favorite movie of last year. And now there are reports coming out that Marvel is really prioritizing a sequel to Thunderbolts. I am super excited, and boy, do I got some ideas. So, recently it was reported that post Secret Wars, there are few things and projects that Marvel is prioritizing, and a sequel to Thunderbolts was one of them. Now, that is extremely exciting to me because, like I mentioned earlier, Thunderbolts is my favorite movie of last year. I just loved the characters and the theme of really what it was trying to articulate. It was really a breath of fresh air for a superhero project, and I absolutely loved it. And so, ever since this report came out, I've really been thinking over, and my brain cannot stop coming up with ideas for what a sequel to this movie could look like. So, in this video, I'm going to break down my pitch in three sections: the roster, the story, and the theme. Let's get started. So for roster, I wanted to follow the roster that was happening in the 2013 run of Thunderbolts, because I remember growing up, I was in middle school at this time, and I was actively reading comics, and though I didn't get to read this one, the cover and the roster of this lineup of the Thunderbolts was like, this is a match made in heaven. This is a super sick lineup of characters. But I have done some research and found out that that run is not very good, that people don't really like it, but the roster is great, and these characters and their MCU counterparts are really great, in my opinion. So, first up, we got Punisher. I think John Bernthal's Punisher is one of my favorite MCU characters. He's going to be great. Next, we got Red Hulk. I've really liked Harrison Ford's portrayal of Red Hulk in Captain America Brave New World, and a lot of people say that that's the best part of that movie. I disagree. I love that movie, even though most people don't. But anywho, Red Hulk is on the team. Next, we got Elektra. There's leaks and rumors and set photos that she is coming back in Daredevil Born Again Season 3. So what a perfect way to segue from that show into the Thunderbolts sequel. And after that, we got Deadpool. I mean, he's an absolute cash cow. You gotta love Deadpool. And from this roster of pretty serious characters, his craziness is really going to be a great compliment to the rest of the team. As well as Ryan Reynolds says, he doesn't really envision himself making another solo Deadpool project. That if he returns, he really sees the character as more of a supporting character to other people. And so that is perfect. Put Deadpool on a team. And then lastly, in the comics, the next character in this lineup is Agent Venom. However, I just don't see Sony allowing Marvel to use an Agent Venom character in a mainline MCU movie. As well as in the comics, Agent Venom is Flash Thompson, and the MCU's Flash Thompson isn't really believable as an Agent Venom, in my opinion. Like, he's not necessarily the strong bully that ends up becoming a war hero in the comics. He's a snobby, rich, annoying kid, which works in the movies, but not necessarily for an Agent Venom character. So I started thinking, who could this last spot go to if Agent Venom isn't an option? And I know people may not like this, but I think this character could work as almost a redemption arc for people to really get to like this character, Ironheart. Even though the show was pretty mid, there were some bones there at the end that I really think they could build off of. Because at the end of Ironheart, Riri makes the deal with Mephisto. Like, she goes through with it. And so there's something a little bit more morally gray than a pretty straight and narrow hero like I think her comics counterpart is. I think it would be really cool to set her up to be a little bit more antagonistic or anti-hero like to match the rest of these characters, as well as adding some diversity to this cast and roster. All right, so this is the story that I have come up with. Essentially, Val is running kind of, but kind of not, because we know the new Avengers have her in their back pocket, but she is supporting the new Avengers. Well, she kind of misses having her Shadow Ops group. Like, even though they weren't a team, but like US Agent and Yelena and Ghost, they were all working for her in a Shadow Ops capacity. And Val starts to realize she needs that still. And so she forms together her own Thunderbolts roster. In this movie, we find out that all of the characters I mentioned before have been incarcerated or under her control in some capacity. And Val assembles this team to do her dirty work. I envision this story where Frank Castle is kind of like the Yelena of the first Thunderbolts movie, because she was the main character amongst the ensemble. She was our emotional anchor of the movie, and I believe that Frank would work exceptionally well as that for this movie. We know following Punisher One Last Kill that his new motivation is no longer just avenging his family, but it's more of like avenging their legacies. Like he wants to protect the innocent, people that don't have a fighting chance. And so I think Val will really play on Frank's desire to protect people to carry out her operations. That she sends this team to go carry out missions and tells Frank, look, even though you're doing things for me, you're protecting innocent people from maybe even worse people. And so that's how Frank kind of gets on board, and he leads this new team of Thunderbolts. I really loved how the asterisk in the first movie at the end of the title was to signify that, yes, they're the Thunderbolts, but they're really the new Avengers. I want to keep that going. I think it's a fun marketing thing, and it's just something creative. So for this Thunderbolts sequel, there's still going to be an asterisk next to the Thunderbolts. That's to signify that this team is actually the Dark Avengers. I want to do an MCU adaptation of the Dark Avengers and Siege storyline. Essentially, Val is assembling her own secret group of Avengers to go carry out her mission of acquiring vibranium, adamantium, things of value to her to kind of follow up on her journey in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So we follow the team doing different missions, different operations, and eventually they end up on a mission in New Asgard to steal something of value there. We know Asgard's got to have plenty of valuable things in the interest of Val. And I really think it would be cool to introduce Enchantress as the main antagonist of this movie, because she's a very prominent Marvel villain that hasn't been adapted yet in the MCU. So that would be really cool. And then also something that I just really love for some reason is stories that follow like a group of like assassin gun wielding characters or just kind of fighter type against a really powerful threat. And so that's something I really loved about the first Thunderbolts movie, was like the group of assassins versus the Sentry Superman type character. Like it was really, really cool. And so we're going to follow the Dark Avengers versus Enchantress, because a mission goes wrong in New Asgard, and I don't have that part fully fleshed out. I just know that I really want her to be the antagonist of this movie. For me, the strongest piece of that first Thunderbolts movie was the emotional weight and story it was telling. Its commentary on loneliness and the need for community and people in your corner was just beautiful. Like that movie makes me cry every single time I watch it. And so even though we're following a new group of characters, I want to honor that original spirit of the first movie. And so I want this movie to not just be a generic shoot people, kill people, fight bad guys type superhero movie. I also want there to be that same emotional weight that people can really relate to. And so when I was looking at this roster that I put together for this movie, there's one thing in common. They've all lost people. And I know that's not a new thing to portray in a movie, but neither was loneliness in the first Thunderbolts. But it hit because we're seeing these characters deal with it. It's a fresh perspective. It's new people dealing with it, and that allows us to see things differently. That's what's new and fresh about it. And so when you look, Frank, he has lost his family, his wife, his kids. Ironheart, she has lost her best friend. Elektra has lost the love of her life. She's lost Daredevil. Red Hulk has lost his relationship with his daughter. And Deadpool has lost Vanessa. And depending on how Doomsday and Secret Wars goes, he's lost his home, his entire world. And so all of these characters might seem like jarring and they don't go well together, but they find this unification through like this feeling of loss, and they might feel like they're alone in it, but there's something to other people sharing that same pain with you that I think is beautiful and can really just work well for this story. So let me know what you think. Do you want them to make a Thunderbolts sequel? Do you like my idea for the Thunderbolts sequel? What would you change? What would you add? Please let me know in the comments. And also, if you have any prayer requests, please let me know in the comments as well. I would love to be praying for you. Deuce, homies.